Before you is the cover of the new CRI journal with Ayn Rand on the cover. We're not going to be covering what they talked about and discussed in their article, but we're going to demonstrate how easy it is to refute Rand and her followers. Rand said this: philosophy is the foundation of science. Epistemology is a foundation of philosophy. Epistemology is a study of what we know and how we can know what we know. It's a study of what is the ground and the foundation and the font of truth and knowledge. So that's what epistemology is. Rand went on to say, reason integrates man's perceptions by means of forming abstractions or conceptions. Here she's in a big problem because Rand is a materialist. She believes only in matter and motion. That's all that exists, is just the physical reality. And yet now she's ripping off the Christian worldview and those worldviews that have a foundation of immaterial truth by using something immaterial. She's using the term concept and abstractions. Her materialistic worldview cannot account for those, nor can they ground them, because again, she's saying only the physical, only the material world exists and what you can ascertain by your senses. Now, the other problem that Rand and her followers have is how to ground and account for universals. Universals such as the laws of logic. One of the laws of logic is the law of identity. A is A. That's a universal truth. Everything you see and everything you know is what it is, and it's not something else. So A is A. I'm me, you are you. The floor you're standing on is the floor you're standing on, and so forth. So this law of logic is universal. It's true everywhere. And this problem of universals is huge because a materialist can only start from particulars. And it's a fallacy. It's a logical fallacy to start with a particular and then end with a universal. You can't do that. And that's what Rand does throughout her philosophy. Now, as you discuss these issues with Rand's followers, you'll note that a lot of them are very sharp. They're very intelligent. And they have ways to evade and avoid what you're saying. So as you discuss these problems with universals, with the laws of logic, you have to stay on it. And just because they deny something doesn't mean they are correct. See, proof is different from persuasion, as some have put it. So you can bring the proof, you can demonstrate and refute their errors, and they can still say, well, you haven't proven anything. And of course, we are disproving them and refuting them right now, and you utilize this information and press it gently and patiently on them. And so Rand and her followers, as materialists, cannot account for the laws of logic, yet the laws of logic have to be utilized in everything we say and everything we do. So knowledge is knowledge, and there is unchanging and true knowledge. We know certain things, and there's certain things that you cannot know by your senses. You cannot know that you're thinking about a pink unicorn by your senses. You cannot know by your senses what you dreamed about in your nightmare yesterday. So there's many things that cannot be observed by your senses that you can know. You can know the square root of certain things, not by observation, but by mathematical principles which are immaterial and non-physical. And so you can know pi, and you can know that without having it as a ground, as your senses being the ground for that knowledge. Obviously, one utilizes their senses, but we're talking about what is the ground, what is the foundation, what is the source, what is the fount for this knowledge, what can ground these truths. And only a source that has universal application and power and reach can be the ground for these things, and of course that is God. So as we look at these, we can understand that when one puts inductive proofs out there, induction itself has many problems. Let's think about those things that we observe. A, we observe causes B. Now, our sense experience observes that A always precedes B. Now, right away, you cannot say that. You can see why empiricism is a fallacy from the get, because nobody can observe all things unless you're God. So when someone says that I observe A always and it always results in B, the word always right there implies you've seen it in the past and in the present, everywhere at all times, and you cannot do that. So let's put that to the side for now. But empirical experience observes that A always precedes B. There seems to be this constant conjunction one always sees, at least in your own limited life, in your own limited way. A followed by B in a repeated experience. This is what a lot of Rand's philosophy is based on. But yet without a theistic ground for observing what causes A or what causes B from A, it violates a classic informal fallacy, post hoc ergo propter hoc. This is an error. It's a great error, and this is also one of the foundations to refute Ayn Rand. Now, attempts to disprove God through empiricism, that, like with Rand, that truth is found through the five senses alone. This form, in this worldview, including Rand's, requires a priori, that's something prior to or independent of observation and experience, which has to be assumed to be true. So this worldview requires a priori equipment, but a priori truths cannot be justified from observation. See, if it's universally true, if it's already assumed universally, these universal truths, like the laws of logic, math, these must be presupposed informing any worldview, but empiricism cannot provide the conditions that are necessary for them. Resting one's worldview on observation apart from the universal pre-essentials can only result in nonsense and unintelligibility of that which one observes. Interpreting and making sense of that which one observes cannot come from just brute observation. Observation is important, but it cannot be the ground for your knowledge. It cannot be the base of your epistemology. There must be knowledge equipment already supplied that is not justified by the five senses. God alone provides the prior essentials for the intelligibility of observation that empiricism requires. God is inescapable. So here we go. Let's sum this up. The truth of God's existence is not probable. It's certain, even if Rand denies that. In her denial, she must utilize universals. She must utilize concepts. She must utilize the laws of logic, all of which she cannot account for nor ground with her epistemology. God's existence is an absolute precondition for all questions and even all doubts. We utilize the laws of logic in our questions as well as in our doubts, thereby even in our questions and even in our doubts, even in the denials of Rand and her followers. All these affirm that God lives because they have to use the universals within the questions or within their doubts or within their denial. So only God can account for these universals. Only the Christian worldview can account for immutable, immaterial concepts and laws. So non-Christian systems of thought cannot furnish a foundation for the law of non-contradiction. Thus, those systems of thought can only offer a way of contradicting themselves, refuting themselves, confuting themselves, stultifying themselves, as they set upon themselves a ground that is self-nullifying. Christianity must be true. The opposite and the opposition of theistic Christianity is false and fallacious and self-refuting.